I've played this game far too much, and I can't remember the last time I used Frost. It's subjectively worse than the others, or so I'm told, so I'm going to use it for once. While this is technically a challenge run, don't take it seriously. Take it about as seriously as an Adam Sandler film. It's just for laughs, but then you realize Adam is actually a surprisingly good actor, and you find new respect for him and his studio. Then you realize he's an amazing basketball player of all things, and he has so much more money, respect, and a legacy that will outlive anything you can ever write or produce and sink into a manic depressive state, even though you're not bipolar, right? It's not a serious run, is what I'm trying to say. So here are the rules. I can only use frost magic to damage things, but I can use my bare hands or a dagger if need be. If I find magic staves, I can use them, but I can't recharge them. This is because some enemies are completely immune to frost, so I'll need a way to get around them. Lastly, I can use other schools of magic as long as they don't do damage. So, chanting, alteration, illusion, it's all fair game. This one was caught crossing the border trying to find a cool place to practice his cool magic when he was captured with some rebels. But he didn't bother to learn their names because they were Nords, and Nords resist cool magic, so they were not cool. He wanders around for a bit and finds a cool rock and figures he should probably tell the nearby Jarl about the whole dragon thing, so he meets Balgruuf. And if you didn't know, he's actually named after the king in Beowulf, so that's cool. After giving a dumb elf the cool rock he found, Balgruuf asks this one to slay a dragon. Cool. To my surprise, this is where using Frost actually pays off. Dragons can't fly without stamina. That's not to say that I beat it, but I did keep it grounded long enough for the guards to carry me. After killing the dragon, I head back to learn that I'm actually a dragon cat, probably because I like to be so high, up in Cyrodiil, and head to the Greybeards. But before I go, I steal some of Balgruuf's shoes and start leveling enchanting. But it's not actually stealing because Balgruuf likes me, and it's not stealing if he lets you take his clothes for free. For some reason, I stopped at Forda Mall to grind experience, but it grinded me instead. At this point, killing anything was worse than some guy behind you at the store who puts his items on the little conveyor belt without putting one of those little divider things down, even though they're right friggin' there. You know, you could obviously just put one yourself, but you're too embarrassed to do anything, so you just stand there waiting for the cashier to eventually get to his items and mistake them for yours. So seconds turn to gosh darn years, and you wish you were actually anywhere else, and then you think, I could just run the hell away right now. But then you'd never be allowed to come back to that store because it'd be way too embarrassing, so you just stand there and wait. But in the end, it doesn't really matter because the cashier is completely competent and knows exactly where your items ended, and all that worry was for nothing. It was like that. I shout at an old man, and he tells me to fetch a horn as if this place isn't loud enough already, but instead all I find is yet another Nord. This Nord seems to think that this one is a cop, but he tells her he's cool, so she dares this one to kill a dragon, and this one isn't a scaredy cat, so he blasts his zombie Scaly. She seems to think that they're best friends and wants to do karate in the garage, but this one dips to practice throwing snowballs in college. He meets more Nords and one not Dragon Cat and heads into Sarthal to shoot air conditioning at corpses. But his fun is dashed as one of the worst plot devices in the game railroads him into being the hero he's not by a mage that's not even from his school. I mean, it doesn't bother me that much. I mean, really. I mean, it's just disrespectful is all. You know what I mean? It's like, this level of narrative disrespect is like, it's like the feeling you get when you spend all week preparing to throw a party for your best friends and make food and clean up just perfectly, decorate, get everything just absolutely amazing, and then you realize you actually have the worst friends because they bail on you literally 5 minutes before the party, and only that one guy you don't actually like shows up because he's a friend of the friend of the friend of the friend you do actually like to hang out with, but he shows up all the time because he's lonely too, and he won't stop about alt-right racist things you can't really relate to, but you become friends with him anyway because he has a good heart and he's just impressionable, and you tell him to shut the gosh darn up and stop being racist, and he's like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I guess people different than me are okay after all, and at least you have one sort of friend. What the hell was I talking about? But all's well that ends well, and this one finds a ball to play with as well as a decent staff. I decide to pick up J'zargo as a companion as it technically complies with the rules and quickly do Azura's Star quest. It went well. Next up was the boring book fetch quest, and upon return this one is interrogated by a gross elf, but he ignores him and runs off to the next thing. Before he can practice throwing snowballs, he's rudely interrupted by the walking plot device yet again. He then runs into a blue thing that tells him about a magic stick, but this time, this one finds it most intriguing. He runs into some dying guy who tells him about another guy who's not cool and mercilessly flings ice cubes at cave things until he finally finds the map to the magic stick. Much to my surprise, ice spells were really beginning to hurt things. He runs back to the college to get his next fetch quest, but that smelly elf has taken control of his favorite ball. Does it bother anyone else that the Archmage is supposed to be such a tragic loss? You even uncover his past in the dungeon, but until this point, the player is given no reason at all to like him. It was getting interesting how the imbalance of certain creatures would just absolutely ignore my frost magic, like these little magic guys, and I would just burn through my staff charges. Anyway, I head into Labyrinthian, or however you pronounce it, fight more raisins, and I find the stick-shaped MacGuffin. After unaliving yet another elf, I head back to unalive another elf. He goes down without any trouble, and I'm proclaimed Archmage by a guy who doesn't even work for the college 3 days after I joined as an apprentice. I remember my first time doing this questline. The outcome was more disappointing than growing up hearing all the adults say, "You're so smart, you can literally do anything you put your mind to," and growing up with big dreams, and it turns out you can't even join the military because your eyes suck so bad, and then your body is rapidly degrading because those same adults didn't teach you how to take care of yourself or how even to do your gosh darn taxes, and then they're like, "See, I told you, you turn out fat and worthless just like the rest of us," and then you're like, "But you said," but then they ignore you and demand grandchildren. Except in this false reality, becoming the president of the gosh darn college is actually possible without putting any work, apparently. After that, I decided to do the Civil War questline. Why? I guess it's because I hate myself. The Civil War campaign is like knowing you have 3 more days of school, and you know it won't be that bad, but you can't help but pretend to be sick anyway. It's like building a ramp for your bike as a 6-year-old, crashing, then doing it again and again because it's bound to pay off, right? It's the kind of quest line that's for people that spend 4 hours a day on Nexus Mod Manager, perfecting their mod order, only to play the game for 30 seconds before quitting because the game is for the modding anyway, ha ha. But that's enough about my life. Let's just say I collected every dagger from the soldiers to enchant because I have issues, and glitched out Ulfric's dialogue by paralyzing him with the frost spells. Goodness, it's that time already. Party time. I turned the embassy into a snow cone stand, I provided the yellow flavor, and rescued the crazy old guy after that, Esbern. Let's just say I had become so powerful that nothing could stop me. When someone told me, "Hey, you should do a frost-only run because it's the worst one," I couldn't imagine the worst one being this strong. If you want to know what it feels like to be a strong frost mage, do you remember the first time you used one of those old icy machines? You know, the red spinny things? I remember. I was like 4, and I was at one of those Circle K gas stations. My family was especially poor, and we had to pinch our pennies, like government cheese poor, like family of 3 splitting a Big Mac without fries poor, like when a Big Mac was 45 cents kind of poor. So it was a huge occasion for me. Anyway, I squirted that skin-dyeing red froth in that cup with the silly translucent dome top so fast it sprayed all over me, the machine, the counter, and my mom. In that moment, I had subjected anyone in that store to cold misery, and I imagined cleaning it up was awful. Playing as Frost Mage is pretty much just like that. I think I was still angry about subjecting myself to the misery that was the Civil War because I just ran from checkpoint to checkpoint for a while. I ran to see Parthenax, got the quest for Blackreach, and literally just ran past everything I could. I must have realized I wasn't having fun after grabbing the Elder Scroll because I quit playing for a while. Alright, so this one had the Elder Scroll in hand, was feeling invincible, and learned the Dragon Shout, Dragon Rend thing. It's an ability he'd only use like twice, 3 times max. Remember, dragons are perma-grounded with ice spells. I captured the dragon in Whiterun without complaint from Balgruuf, because I did the Civil War questline after all. It wasn't worth it, by the way. I let the dragon go because he promises to totally be buds for life after I kill his big brother for him. I don't believe it. The last dungeon was fun, at least. I was unstoppable, which had its moments. Like here, when I thought the dragon priest was going to be a serious problem. I completely overprepared for the fight and killed it in like 3 hits. Oh, and I just wanted to shout out whatever writer was in charge of this little exchange between this nameless soldier and the player. Up until this point, I felt no attachment or responsibility for any of my actions in the game. Nothing was permanent, nothing was thought-provoking or even remotely sad. But this one guy trusts me. The Dragonborn, some magic-wielding hero, then gets eaten by the World Eater after I ask him to follow me. Holy cow, I really like that. Why couldn't the rest of the game be as well done? Anyway, on to the terrible antagonist, the Paper Dragon. You know, fighting soon makes me remember why I like this game anyway. Skyrim is like a weighted blanket that smells like the fancy store you bought it from. It almost smells like the girlfriend you never had. It's a cozy place that isn't threatening. Who needs a good story anyway after you spent thousands of dollars on a degree you won't get to use because society sucks and all your other friends look like they're having great lives on social media, but you know it's just for a show anyway. And so you decide to lose yourself in a game with a terrible story that's as terrible as the story you're living in real life because real life is a lie anyway, and I got to meet Ysgramor, which was nice. And so this one, Khajiit Master Frost Mage has his last bout with Alduin by initiating a shouting match before the fight of his life begins. Seriously, it's kind of lame that you and the heroes literally just shout back and forth with Alduin for a while. Anyway, at least that's what I would say if a decently designed boss he was, but, was anyone else surprised to find that Alduin had no second phase? I mean, I know at least 90% of you fought him as a stealth archer and killed him in one hit, right? There's not much to say other than, yeah, you definitely can beat the game as an ice mage if you allow yourself to do damage to the dwarven constructs with other means. If I hadn't used stabs, it wouldn't have been possible. The run took about 15 hours with maxing out enchanting for who knows why, the Civil War, and college quest lines. What should I do next? Let me know down below, and if you made it this far, thanks. You're awesome. And consider leaving me a like and subscribe. Later.